Yeah, okay, I just need to give you the $2 for payment. 4.90.
Milk is defined as a fluid secreted by the mammary glands of females for the nourishment of their young, especially cow's milk used as food by humans. So where did it come from? Cow and goat milk has been a popular drinking substance since well before the 1200s, but it is only as recently as 1993 that the United States government began running got milk ads, claiming milk to be a health food.
Drink your milk, kids.
I don't want milk. Milk's for babies.
Yeah, babies.
Oh yeah? Well, I happen to know that milk helps build strong bones. So drink up.
Well, Mr. Miller told me he never drinks milk. Look at him.
Yeah.
Hi, kids.
Oh, that's not good.
Got milk.
These ads, which cost around $180 million a year, are from the popular Got Milk campaign. From spots on television, ads in magazines, and cartoons for children, the processed dairy industry continues to bombard the public with pro-milk propaganda. While the USDA recommends milk because it contains 3 vital nutrients, calcium, potassium, and vitamin D, the Harvard School of Public Health has labeled these recommendations as a step in the wrong direction. The biggest supporting factor on milk's side is that it somehow reduces fractures.
Well, I happen to know that milk helps build strong bones.
In fact, there is very little evidence to suggest this, and countries with low milk consumption, such as the Far East, also show low fracture rates. Moreover, a single serving of milk is 138 calories, so the USDA-backed suggestion of 3 cups a day adds up to be 366 calories, a large portion for those watching their weight. Aside from simply not being beneficial, it is also linked to certain types of cancer, especially prostate and breast cancer. The source of the correlation is unknown, though it is likely tied to the recombinant bovine growth hormones, or rbgh, also known as Posilac. Posilac is a product of Monsanto, and took about $500 million of research and development to become a viable expense for dairy owners. Basically, it mimics a gene found in the pituitary gland of cows called bovine somatotropin. By injecting this artificial Posilac into the cows, they are able to produce 10 to 15% more milk than they are from cows not treated with rbgh. While it is approved by the FDA and considered to present no additional risk to consumer health in the milk product from injected cows, Posilac has been banned from use in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Israel, and the entire European Union since the year 2000. How did we get here?
What does big dairy look like, and how is it that became the dominant model? When in fact, it's pretty clear that you're going to make better milk, maybe even healthier milk, by being smaller scale.
Professor Rudisell owns his own goat farm and produces his own raw, rbgh-free goat milk.
With goat, you don't have very much raw goat milk commercially available, if any, really at all. Which is the point for us of doing it. Have access to a kind of milk that's not widely available. Yeah, so and all of our cheeses that we make like for ourselves are raw milk cheeses, and that's primarily how we think about ourselves as cheesemakers. Soft cheeses like Chev, like spreadable kind of cheeses, we make these little mold ripened cheeses that are bloomy, like little camemberts and bries that have a white mold growing on the outside of them. That's a Provence style cheese. We make a hard aging cheese, kind of in a Gouda style. We make Parmesan. We make a lot of feta. It's pretty fun.
One of the main reasons Professor Rudisell owns his farm is to supply his own raw milk. Legally, however, he cannot sell locally on such a small scale.
And that raises a whole set of other questions, because we're also kind of legally not in the state, not set up to really handle small scale dairy. Like, we're allowed to consume our milk ourselves, but that's pretty strictly defined, as your immediate family. There have been cases of people kind of doing similar things to what we're doing and at about the size that we're doing it, where we actually maybe have enough to share with a small number of neighbors, 5 or 6 or 10 people. Maybe we could provide milk for that many people, but there's no legal structure for that to happen. Even if those consumers are willing to say, like, I forfeit the protections and controls of the government, you're not allowed to say that. And even if they were willing to even if they came to the farm and said, I know how these people do this, it's difficult. It's difficult for small farms also to survive economically, because the price of milk is so. The big raw milk dairy in California is Organic Pastures, and they have, I don't know, maybe 450 head of cattle, and they have a kind of a ranging system, a little bit like what Joe Soliton does in Virginia with his beef cattle. Where they move them around from pasture to pasture and let the pasture regenerate. Following cows with chickens to scratch through the poop. That operation's a little bit different than it is in Virginia, because in California you have to water grasses. But by all accounts, it seems, it's like when you go visit it, it's a nice place. And it sort of makes you, it's sort of what you think a dairy farm might look like. Cows milling around. And
Yeah.
There does seem to be the cowness of the cow, like Salatin talks about. Like,
Yeah.
when you go there, the animals seem happy and for the most part healthy, and they have an incredible mobile milking operation. It's really super cool. I asked the owner of that dairy, Mark McAfee, how much milk needed to cost per gallon so that his animals were well fed, and he
Could live.
Send his kids to school, fix his
Yeah.
truck when his truck needed to make his mortgage, and he said $12 a gallon. So you've got this sort of disparity between, a gallon of milk at Vaughn's or whatever is $4.
$2, okay. $4.90.
Where's the gap, and how do you bridge that? Historically, I think it's interesting, like, kind of where that comes from. What kinds of subsidies are in place? What kind of scale do you need to operate on to make that work?
Subsidies from the FDA help to ensure that bigger corporations can continue to outsell healthier alternatives.
So it's subsidized. The one bright spot in all of this, I think, these days is that artisan food movement has created markets for like small-scale cheesemakers. So a lot of dairy, kind of small and medium-sized dairy farmers are trying to like provide value-added products by making cheese, but like not cheese at this grand scale, cheese at like a much more kind of local or smaller scale. And I know in California that the problem is bad enough for small dairy farmers that there's the CDFA, the California Department of Food and Agriculture, which is like the arm of the USDA in California, has like a dairy suicide hotline.
A what?
In California has like a dairy suicide hotline. They think, there's 100 dairy farms are going to go out of business this year. There's all this price pressure on farmers. And it's a really kind of shockingly, it's like a high incident of suicide. And I've always sort of thought it had to do with the fact that, dairy farmers probably actually care about their animals and don't like having to make uncomfortable choices. And they go through all those births and deaths and all that stuff, If you want to come out someday, as long as like we can figure out a time that works for both of us, if you want to come out and shoot.
You have to cut it up really small, and we mix it in and kind of trick them into eating it.
So what does it do for the goats?
Well, oregano is a natural antibiotic, basically.
Oh yeah.
So it's just, I just mix it in for its medicinal properties. Like in nature, they would maybe eat a little bit, but not
Accidentally.
very much, because the flavor's too strong, so they wouldn't choose it. But mixed in, then it has.
What a beautiful breakfast.
Yes,
Look at that.
these goats are so spoiled, I'm telling you. Because that way you know how much the mothers are producing and you know how much the kids are drinking, and you can control all of that. And then you can decide when to wean the babies. So economically that all makes a lot of sense. But for us, that's too much work because we have full-time jobs and we don't have employees, right? So we let the mothers nurse. We encourage it, and if they don't do it at first, we spend a lot of time training them to make sure they can do it. Sometimes they need a lot of help for the first week. And then we let them nurse the babies until they decide to stop, the moms, which oftentimes is as much as 6 months. So a pretty good percentage of the milk that the mom makes just goes to the babies. We'll pull the boys off a little earlier and separate them. We won't let the boys drink for 6 months, but we'll let the girls who we're going to keep, as dairy goats, we'll let them continue to get a little bit of milk from their mom and not have the stress of weaning.
So what can we all do? Well, not everyone has the space for a personal farm, but the biggest problem with the unhealthy dairy industry is that people continue to buy the products that they create. Simply put, we must come together and start purchasing raw milk or alternative milk substances, such as soy or almond milk, in order to show big dairy that an unnaturally low price will not convince us as a consumer society to condone the unethical treatment of animals and the hazardous byproducts that they are selling. Really, nothing speaks more clearly than money. So spend it well.